Well, it's great to be back on the road with the lockdown restrictions easing, and what I've got today is the 2020 Skoda Rapid. Now, Skoda's made the most of the lockdown. In fact, they've launched 3 models in one shot. You had the Karoq, you had the Superb facelift, and the Rapid. But the Rapid is the most important launch because it's the backbone of Skoda in India. This is the car that gives the company volumes. So, what's really new in the 2020 Rapid? Well, looking at it, it's the same shape that was launched almost a decade back in 2011 when the Rapid first debuted. So not much has changed over there except for a couple of facelifts along the way. But I have to say, this design has really aged well and it still looks pretty fresh. The Rapid's strong, clean and uncluttered design has stood the test of time and allowed the car to age quite gracefully. A big facelift in 2016 certainly helped. Okay, it doesn't look as modern or sleek as its rivals, but its robust and clean lines still attracts a lot of buyers. Well, what's really new, the talking point, is what's under the hood. It's an all-new engine, the 1-litre TSI. So basically, this is a new wine in an old bottle. Let's see how that wine tastes. But engine apart, the interior too, just like the exterior, is unchanged. The interiors again very familiar because they've been unchanged since the Rapid was launched. But I have to say the quality is still top class by class standards. It's just everything has got a solid feel to it, fit and finish. But there are a few new bits to speak of. We are in the Monte Carlo or the top variant, and with that you've got this leather stitching on the steering wheel, a flat bottom steering wheel with a dimple finish. This part is really nice. You've got this new seat trim. Again, the red adds a bit of color, a splash of sportiness, but I'm not sure about how it looks. It feels a bit like an aftermarket seat cover. But again, overall the interior is very functional, very straightforward and a very pleasing place to be. The big addition is an 8-inch Android-based infotainment system which looks a touch aftermarket. The high-res screen is sharp and easy to read, but it's not very intuitive to use. There's no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You get phone screen mirroring via a third-party Easy Connection app, but the experience isn't particularly seamless. Hook up the system through your phone's Wi-Fi, you can play around with all the apps that are bundled into the unit. Yup, I've just pulled up the Autocar India site. This top-spec Rapid has some really useful features and is reasonably well equipped. But there are no side airbags which you get in the more affordable style variant. Also, compared to the competition, there are quite a few things missing. You don't get LED lights, cool seats and the all-important sunroof. And there's no push-button start. You get an old-fashioned key. Now let's talk a bit about this engine first. This engine belongs to the EA211 family of the Volkswagen Group. This engine is going to be powering small Skodas and Volkswagens in the future. It's the latest in the petrol engine family. It's got turbocharging, direct injection, 4 valves per cylinder. From Skoda's standpoint, this engine replaces the old 1.6 MPI which was mated to a 5-speed gearbox. This is a 6-speed gearbox. That engine developed 105 horsepower and about 153 Newton meters of torque. This engine is more comparable to the 1.2 TSI which was there in the Vento. That's also gone because of BS6. And compared to that engine, this develops a bit more power, 110 versus 105. Same amount of torque, 175 Newton meters. So on paper, this engine is pretty good. But let's see how good it really is on the road. And with a lockdown that's not completely lifted, the roads have very little traffic. Perfect. Now the question everyone wants to know is the Rapid 1 litre TSI quick? How does it perform? Is it better than the petrol version it replaced? Of course it is, but more important, is it a substitute for the 1.5 diesel which has been discontinued? The truth is that this little engine doesn't have the sheer pulling power of a diesel at low speeds, and when you want a burst of acceleration in traffic, you'll find yourself shifting down a gear. But once you get into the peak of the power band, it's a different story. Wow, this engine just then comes alive. Ooh, once the turbos pull, this thing just pulls and pulls in one linear shove. It's a beautifully broad power band. Absolutely fantastic. This car is very, very quick once you get going. And honestly, this engine complements the chassis. This chassis always can do with a lot of power, and it just feels fantastic at speed. And speed is something the Rapid gathers very quickly. Our test data shows it's the fastest midsizer today, but it's the ease with which the Rapid builds up speed that makes it special. The secret is this feisty engine's wide spread of torque. It pulls hard and strong and just loves to be revved. In fact, the more you rev it, the smoother it gets, and the only giveaway that this is a 3-cylinder engine is the characteristic thrum. Now with an engine that's strong and willing to be exploited, you'll be tempted to have a little fun. The good thing is that the light and compact engine has made the Rapid a little less nose-heavy and more eager to dive into corners. The ride is brilliant as always, and it feels so reassuring at speed. Yes, this is a fun car to drive, but before I forget, let's see if it's good to be chauffeur-driven in too. So the rear also completely unchanged as far as space, legroom goes. Nice high seating position, good visibility outside. Legroom is also decent. Under thigh support, quite good. You've got an aircon vent, no USB port. In fact, even the USB port up front is really not well located. But otherwise, this is really quite a good place to be if you're chauffeur driven. And in this top trim Monte Carlo variant, you even get this little cushion. So what do we think of the new Rapid? Well, it certainly gets a fresh lease of life with this all-new state-of-the-art engine, but that still can't hide its age. It doesn't have the latest gizmos offered by rivals and feels a touch analog in comparison. But quite honestly, that's part of its charm. It's a car that still has its fundamentals right. So if you love to drive and need a safe and solid mid-size sedan that won't break the bank, the Rapid 1 litre TSI is the one for you.